Welcome back to the Neighbors Podcast. I'm your host, Allie Parsons, and today we have back on the podcast Rebecca Maxwell. She was one of our first guests in the early seasons of Neighbors, and she's a licensed marriage and family counselor and just such a well of knowledge when it comes to the integration of faith and the science of our brain. And she just came out with a brand new book called Jesus and Your Mental Health. This is what we're talking about today. And we go on a lot of, we call them relevant rabbit holes here at the Neighbors Podcast. We talk about how we're over-consuming in our culture, information and tragedy and all the things, and some of the trends in mental health and well-being today. And it's a great episode for anybody. It's not just people who would say, I struggle with mental health. This is for everybody because we're all called to pursue wellness when it comes to heart, soul, mind, and strength. And so this episode is particularly focused, and this book is focused on what that means for the mind. And she's also just a great friend, a great hang, and I know you're going to love this conversation. We want to thank our sponsors for making this episode possible. And if you're interested in being a sponsor, maybe you have a small business or a ministry and you want to be a part of the sponsors for the Neighbors Podcast, you can email us at allie.neighborspodcast@gmail.com. And we'd love to talk about partnering with you. We really couldn't do this without our sponsors, and so we want to give them a shout out. This episode is sponsored by Lay Construction. Lay Construction is a full-service general contractor specializing in commercial interiors. Whether your project is office, retail, hospitality, faith-based, or industrial, Lay Construction services all market types. The company is Jacksonville-based and dedicated to serving Northeast Florida by delivering the highest quality work in the industry. For any of your construction needs, Lay Construction is your team. Check out some of their completed projects on Instagram at lay_construction or online at lay-construction.com. This episode is also brought to you by Bozard Ford. Bozard Ford Lincoln is a third-generation family-owned car dealership just off I-95 in St. Augustine. Their team wants to come alongside you for all your transportation needs, making sure all transactions are transparent, quick, and fun. Check them out at bozardford.com or bozardlincoln.com, or stop by and see them next time you're shopping for a new car. And lastly, this episode is brought to you by Clark Spray Foam. Looking to upgrade your home or business with insulation that actually performs? Clark Spray Foam is Jacksonville's trusted name in high-performance spray foam insulation, giving you year-round comfort, lower energy bills, and a quieter space. Clark Spray Foam is family-owned, 5-star rated, and focused on comfort, efficiency, and quality, offering a variety of insulation solutions. And just for our Neighbors Podcast listeners, mention this ad and get $500 off your next project. Give them a call. They foam it all. Visit clarksprayfoam.com today. And here is my conversation with Rebecca Maxwell. Rebecca, welcome back to the Neighbors Podcast.
Thank you, Allie. Glad to be with you.
Gosh, like first 5 guests probably, which is so fun 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And today we're talking about your book, which at that point we made you say out loud that you were writing a book for accountability to finish it. Mm-hmm. I think you were only in like phase 1 of writing it.
Probably.
And now here you are. Like it's
here.
real.
It's real. It's here.
Congratulations. It's so exciting. Yeah. What was the process of writing the book like?
Long. It was hard. It was like all new. So I had to figure out when I was going to write because I have a very busy life.
Yes.
Full. I have a very full plate.
Full plate.
That's what I should say.
Yes.
And so I had to literally make time, carve out time. I had to say no to something really great for a time to have time to write, to have space to write. And so I started going to church on Thursdays and not serving on Sundays, which I haven't not served in a really long time. So I was writing on Sundays.
Oh, wow.
And that still probably wasn't enough time. I had to find little pockets of time to write, because sometimes you sit down to write and you just can't get your brain into it.
Yep.
And so sometimes it takes hours just to get into that space and feel like the Holy Spirit is inspiring you. So I had to learn how to actually do the process of writing, the outlining and the research and just all the things. I mean, I was splitting my time between reading everything on the subject and actually putting my own words and thoughts down on paper.
So we have our mutual friend, Lisa Turkers, which is so funny to say our mutual friend.
Yeah,
like, this is so fun. Because what a giant she is in women's ministry and the ministry world. But recently I had told her, like, I don't know, I love writing. Like, I just want to know the process of, like, writing a book. And she laid it out, you know, what her process is.
Oh, yeah.
I left there. I thought, you know, that feels like a not right now. It was so, it's so much. Like the amount of words you have to write and the amount of time it takes. Yeah. And then kind of, you know, not a front row seat, but getting to see you write this book over the past couple of years. Like these books are a labor of love.
They are.
And I've written, you know, short Bible studies, and even those, like, I mean, you just agonize over every word.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you know that people are going to, this book's going to sit in their hands and it's going to mean something, and you're stewarding how they perceive a certain topic.
Yes.
Like, this is weighty.
Yeah. It's really hard. And when you start to bring in editors and things, you get some feedback, and it really kind of rattles it. At least for me, it really rattled me, because some of the feedback I got was, well, I think that you might be using too much scripture. Like, your readers might get lost in the scripture references. And I had to really wrestle with that, because I don't want my readers to get lost, but I also want to point them to the scripture. Sure. I wanted it to be scripture heavy. That's like the whole point. Yeah. So that stuff is really hard to wrestle with. Okay, Lord, what are you calling me to do? And what are these experts saying that have edited probably thousands of books and know how people read? You know, you're really flying blind in terms of the process. I mean, my process was messy. I mean, I need the Cliff Notes from that process, because my process was really messy. Yeah. But I did learn some things, which is good. I learned, you know, I learned better structure of my time and energy. And the second one will probably be just a little less messy. We'll see.
You already know about a second book?
Yeah, it's kind of in my brain a little bit.
Wow.
It's not well fleshed out yet, but.
Well, I mean, do you want to share it now so we can hold you accountable? No. So when the book came out, like, did you just feel free? Like, did it just feel like this weight?
No, I wish. I wish it did. It felt like the beginning, because I self-published, and you have to market your book. So I had to, like, ask friends to let me be on their podcast, and I have to go promote this book, and I have to create content for social media, which is like my least favorite thing is social media, but it's how you create a platform. And so I had to go get this book to the world. I spent a lot of money and sweat equity and time in this book. And if nobody reads it, you know, like, what is it good for? Yeah. And I think I wholeheartedly believe in the message. So I've spent a lot of time and money and energy kind of promoting it. So
but the good news
feel like
is
it's not over.
It's going really well.
It is
and
going
people
really
are buying it.
Yeah.
And
I'm getting a lot of great feedback.
I hear people talking about it, and this is it is a topic that needs to be talked about. And there's just not a lot of it in our context. Like, it really is a unique message, which I think is really important. Which, before we get so deep into the book stuff, because we like to have a little fun here, and you're like truly one of the most fun people
I
know.
Thank
you are like, you're hilarious and life of the party, and so we have to have some fun questions. So here's my first fun question.
Okay. All right.
Well, I think they're fun. Okay, so if you're invited to a party and everyone's told to bring something, what are you bringing?
Girl, I am bringing cups, plates, and
you're that
napkins.
person?
Yes.
I was about to say, there are two types of people. Somebody's making a dish and somebody's volunteering for forks and napkins.
Or drinks. I mean, can I pick up some 2 liters and a bottle of wine?
Oh my gosh,
I'll
that's
bring
so
all
funny.
the alcohol if you want. Like, anything I can get at the store. Buffalo chicken dip from Publix, already made, delicious.
And if you put it in a separate bowl,
I mean, yeah. I can cook, but I don't really enjoy it.
Okay, that's fair.
So, you know, my thing, so many people, like, I want to bring people meals. It's not my gift.
I know. I
will send you something from Taziki's or somewhere. But my gift is not making the casserole. I wish it were. My heart wants to.
You know, that's what matters, okay? I actually do like to cook, and maybe it's just like a season of life thing. I just have this, and this is like so selfish. I can't believe I'm about to say this publicly on a podcast. I really like genuinely want to bring so many people meals, and I think about it during the week and stuff.
I know, me too.
Then I think about like if I make that much food, and I not for my like I need food. Like
my kids need food.
If I double batch, like that could feed us all week.
Yeah.
So, but
who has time to do that?
This is a selfish problem. Like I need to be generous with my food, but I feel the same way. Like someone has a baby, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to bring them a meal, and then I'm not always great at it.
I know. I'm not either.
But at least you have the flour covered.
Flatware. Bottle of wine.
Okay, here's my second question. And okay, so if you were to do anything but what you're doing now, what would you be doing? And I want to give the caveat of this question. It's interesting because you used to be full-time staff at a church, and you felt you had dreamed of being a counselor, and then you actually went and did it. So it's funny because if I would have asked you this question, like 10 years ago, you would have probably said, I'd love to be a counselor. And now you are. So I'm interested to see if there's another thing that you would do. But it can be kind of funny, like not as serious as that. But what would you be doing?
So I'd probably be speaking more. That's in my wheelhouse already. And I think I might be a teacher, like in a public school.
Oh, wow.
I had a short stint as a substitute teacher while I was getting my master's. And I really like teaching. I like being with kids.
Yeah.
And maybe high school, maybe middle school. I mean, those middle schoolers.
Risky.
It's crazy, but you can yell at them and they still love you at that age. So
I could see you as a teacher. Now, a substitute teacher, that's a tough role.
Hard. Yeah.
That's a really hard
role. They do not
role.
like you.
No, I feel like
I
just think about I think about how I viewed substitute teachers, and I feel bad. Like I should probably repent for that a little bit.
You probably should.
But that's a grueling role. So I feel like if you like that, like how much more would you like teaching?
I know.
But now that is something I could see that could make sense. Like there could be a way that you teach some. Would you ever teach like college?
Oh, yeah. I love to teach college. Yeah.
I could totally see you doing that.
We need more college teachers.
We do need more college
Biblically
teachers.
grounded.
I was a teacher for 1 year, 9th grade English.
Oh.
And honestly, I loved the kids. The kids were hilarious and incredible. But it was, there were just a lot of factors to it that made it very difficult. I mean, teaching is a high and holy calling.
It is.
I'd much rather just teach the Bible to women in other contexts than be in a school. But, okay, so now let's get into the book. So let's talk about what you talk about mental well-being.
Yeah.
What is that, and why is it important that we pursue that, particularly as believers?
Yeah, so God calls us to love him with all heart, soul, mind, and strength. Right? So this book kind of focuses holistically, but zooms in on the mind and what mental well-being is. And I don't know that we've traditionally talked a lot about this in our culture, or really fleshed out what that means. And what I think it means is, foundationally is loving God with your mind. And how that fleshes out practically are things like, how am I managing my emotion? How am I regulating? Am I just spouting off all over the place because my emotions are just bursting out of me at all times and I'm reacting to everything? So am I regulating my emotions to be able to speak the truth in love instead of just speak truth?
Yep.
Things like, what is my thought life like? What do I think about myself? What do I think about others? Am I guarding my heart? It says guard your heart and mind. Am I guarding my mind from the things coming in that could take me away from my identity as a child of God, away from my relationship with Jesus? So especially now, we have so much coming into our mind all the time that our mind really isn't designed to take in quite all of the information, and frankly, extreme information and images and traumatic events that are happening in our world. And so it's learning how to stay connected to the world, but not be of it, not be consumed by it. And so I think that's a lot of what it means to have mental well-being, is like thinking about the wellness of your mind like you would your relationships, your body, your relationship with God, right? So heart, soul, mind, and strength. The other three we think about quite a bit, but our mind we don't. And it's a key piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, and I think that reframes some of our perception of mental health because, and I'm not trying to speak for everybody, so I'll just say for me, when I hear mental health, I kind of think more extreme situations. Like I think, if you're someone that struggles with anxiety and depression, or if you have a mental illness, like that's kind of what comes to mind. But what you're saying in the reframing is we are all called to pursue mental wellness.
Yeah.
And all of us struggle with some of the things that you were saying, with overconsumption of information that's out there in the world, with irritability. You have that like low level angst all the time. Like these are all flashes on the dashboard that you may not need intense therapy. Maybe you do. I'm sure a lot of us do, but this is really a message for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are things you can do at any level, just in maintaining good mental well-being or recognizing, and I deal with this in the book, recognizing when you need to go see someone, right? Yeah. There's kind of this prevailing thought out there that everybody needs therapy, and I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that a lot of mental well-being, we find so much in the scripture on that, and being in relationships helps with our mental well-being. Being in good, solid, deep relationships where we're vulnerable and sharing with one another, that helps our mental health. And so not everybody needs therapy. And so I want to help people know what those signs are that they really need to get some professional help.
Which I do think that's really helpful because I do feel like as mental health and therapy has become widely accepted in our culture, we maybe swung the pendulum to this idea that everybody needs therapy. I mean, I believed it too. I probably 5 years ago was like, I guess I need therapy. Like I'm in ministry. So I remember showing up to the therapist's office.
Yeah.
She's like, what brings you in? I was like, I honestly don't know. Like, and I remember we just had this hilarious conversation. She kept saying, okay, like, tell me about this area of your life. And I'd be like, yeah. And I would explain it. And at the end, she was just like, I mean, I think you're doing really well. Like, it was just this funny conversation of, I don't think she wanted to say you don't need therapy because, of course, like if I think I need it, like she's gonna try and help me. But I just remember it being I only ever went one time, and I just remember being like, it was great, but does everybody need therapy? So I think it's really helpful. To just come alongside the narrative that I think, we as a culture love to overcorrect.
Absolutely.
And I feel like we're kind of in the overcorrecting.
Right.
So can you share what are some of the indicators that it may be good to pursue an extra step going into therapy?
Yeah. I mean, if you are having symptoms of anxiety or depression that they don't seem to come and go, right? You don't seem to be able to manage them on your own with some of the things the tools that I give in this book for managing symptoms. If you're finding yourself just stuck, that's probably an indicator, that you need to seek some professional help. If you're having obviously more serious issues with like breaking from reality or really not being able to get control of your emotions and it's impacting your relationships or your ability to function, that's probably the biggest indicator. If your mental health and your symptoms are keeping you from functioning the way you want to in your regular life, if you're not able to get to work, if you're not performing at work, you're seeing that going down, or for kids, if their grades really start to slip or they're having more than normal trouble getting to school. None of us want to get up in the morning, but, if they're having more trouble than normal, if they're isolating, if you find yourself really isolated, you're pulling back from people, those are indicators that you probably need to do a little bit of work with somebody.
Okay. So for then the probably majority of people who are just living with the everyday, death by 1,000 cuts. We live in a painful, broken world kind of thing. What are some of the things, and I specifically want to talk about this overconsumption and overexposure I think we're experiencing, just in the past couple months with some of the egregious things that have happened in our culture. Charlie Kirk's death, the girl on the train that gets stabbed, like videos of them dying are circulating the internet. So what about that is really dangerous for us to be consuming? And then besides that, even just like the amount of news we consume going on in the world, like what is dangerous about that we need to be aware of and put in some boundaries?
Yeah, so I want to make a distinction between movies that we watch and real life things that we see on TV or social media. Our brain knows when we're watching a movie that this isn't real.
Oh, interesting.
It kind of knows, like, this is a movie, this is a story. Even if it's based on a real event, we know that that's an actor, and that actor's not dying right now.
Right.
But when we see a video of the girl on the train or Charlie Kirk, our brain knows that that's real and that's happening in real life. And our heart and mind do not have the capacity to, like, we're not meant to see that depth of tragedy firsthand. Our brain isn't really capable of seeing that. That's why so many of our veterans are struggling with PTSD, because they have seen and experienced things that their brain can't fully process and make sense of. And so when we are watching these things, I mean, even video games, like I don't love violent video games. I do think they're desensitizing. But even those, like, our brain knows that it's not real. So when we're seeing these real things, I mean, it just seems like anything goes on the internet now.
Truly.
I mean, I have 2 college-age boys, and they watch all kinds of things. You know, even like in my hometown of Cincinnati, there were some people like brutally beat up in public. And like, we are not meant to watch that. Like, it does something to us. And so that's the biggest part. We have to monitor what's coming in to our brain. And we can do that. We have the ability to do that. I have a lot of people in my office that have said, you know what, I have just completely taken social media off my phone, right? Or they'll do a detox, or they will, reset their setting. I recently reset some settings on my office, like internet. And it was rough because everybody started complaining that they couldn't get on normal sites, but it was kind of in an effort to like buffer some of those things. So I'm trying not to police them anymore, but you know, I don't want people to just, when you start to see it, it's like you can't look away.
Right. Totally.
So then you're kind of stuck there and seeing it, and it does something to your mind, your heart, your soul. And it's really like traumatic. I was listening to something this morning. Actually, I think it was John Eldridge talking about the same topic, that we're not meant to see this, and that they did a study back after 9/11, that the people that were actually there and the people that watched it happen live on TV had the same level, a very similar level of PTSD.
Oh, wow.
From watching the planes fly into those buildings and watching the buildings collapse.
Yeah, I think we're just so inundated. I even think about like when the Israel-Gaza stuff first started coming out, I feel like a lot of people were writing articles or coming on podcasts saying like the human brain is finite and we're treating it like it's infinite, like as if it has enough capacity to be able to consume all of this news and all of this darkness, when like there was a time, like the way we're designed, like we would have heard about something happening across the world. It would have taken time to get to us. We wouldn't have seen images.
Right.
And so we're just in this like instant news tragedy. Like we have so much visuals and information on it that it wears on the human brain.
Yeah, it shapes us.
Yeah, I just saw a girl post. There's this new thing called a brick, and it's this little cube, and you there's like a piece or like an app on your phone, and then there's this separate piece, and it disables certain apps. So like, you know how right now you can put limits on your apps, but they're so easy to bypass. Like, you can hit like skip. So it doesn't actually help you. But it's called getting bricked. You disable things and then you leave the cube at home, or like it's in a different room. So if you want to unbrick your phone, then you have to actually get up, go take the little square thing, put it on the back of your phone, and it will release the apps. But if you're like out and about, the brick's at home, there's nothing you can do. And she was just saying she's been using it for a month. She said it has completely changed her life. And she said it's crazy how much her like thumbs will just naturally go to open random apps. Like we're just wired to do this, to consume and consume and consume instead of being present where we are.
Yeah, and the other thing that's happening is we're getting a dopamine hit from that. Yeah. So we're getting really cheap dopamine. And
let's talk about
cheap
that.
dopamine is not good for you. It's like a drug. So good dopamine is like getting out in nature, being with people, connecting, doing something you love, slowing down and like smelling flowers and enjoying the day. Like I drove over the bridge coming here today and I looked out on the intercoastal and it's just, you know, the sun is glistening and I just was full of gratitude. And I thought, okay, this is a dopamine
And
hit.
that's dopamine?
Yeah. I'm driving over the bridge, just enjoying the scenery. I had some worship music on. I was enjoying the scenery and just feeling gratitude that I get to live in this beautiful place. And that is good dopamine. Right? Cheap dopamine are these hits of headlines and it's meant to be a cheap dopamine hit. You know, I mean, how many times have you clicked on an article because it had a catchy headline and it was like bait and switch, right? It wasn't actually what your brain was saying the article was going to be about. It was something else. And so we're getting these cheap hits and we're getting let down and it's addictive. So we keep doing it thinking it's going to satisfy and it never does.
And you can feel that, like anybody listening and myself included, like it takes effort for me to put down my phone, put it on Do Not Disturb and pick up my Bible. Like cognitive, like when I just think about it logically, I'm like, my heart wants to be close to God.
Yes.
I have the desire to read my Bible. Why is it so hard for me to put the phone down or even not be distracted when I am reading the Bible? Like I just find myself, my brain wanders. I have a hard time single focus on what I'm trying to do, which is a good thing that I actually do desire. And yet, like if I hear my phone vibrate, if I see it light up, like, I mean, I'm telling you, I really do have to put it on Do Not Disturb and put it on a different shelf in the room because it's like an uncontrollable thing. It's scary.
Yeah, it's an attention getter, and it's made that way. Honestly, it's made that way. But with anything, like there's good and bad to it, right? Like we're not going backwards. We need these phones. But we have to control them,
right?
For our good. Yeah. And not the other way around.
Yeah, I had Jordan Rayner on Neighbors a month or so ago, and he talked about the resurgence of the house phone.
Yes.
And how he treats his cell phone when he comes home like a house phone. He goes and plugs it in the master bathroom and
I love that.
Treats it literally like it's and I think there's a lot of merit to that. And just trying to be, I think a lot of my mental wellness and well-being, I can feel, and maybe it's the dopamine that you're talking about. I find that concept really fascinating. I've never heard of like cheap dopamine versus good, rich dopamine. And maybe this is a little bit of it, but I just find that I feel so much better. Like I'm living so much more whole when I'm just present with the people that I'm with and I'm not distracted by what's going on in a place that I'm not at.
Right.
And it's a discipline that I really have to work on.
Yeah, I think all of us do. I think it's a really big part of our mental wellness that I didn't mention a few minutes ago is working on being present with those around us. And even just me driving over the bridge today and just being present with this beautiful scenery. You know, we're so distracted. We all have cricks in our neck from looking down at our phone. And, you know, we're not able to like just be where we are. Yeah. And I think that the more we're able to be where we are, I mean, it's a technique that we use in treatment is the power of presence and helping people practice being present, because anxiety can't live in the present. It lives in the future and it lives in the past.
Oh, interesting.
So if you work on getting your mind present, anxiety will flee.
Come on.
Yeah.
Okay, switching gears a little bit, and this is, again, I'm just going to speak personally. We were in our church lobby, I don't know, a couple months ago, and my mom was there, and you're friends with my mom, and I said some comment to my mom, and she said, "Oh, I'm so sorry, like, I've messed you up so much," or something. And you said, like, this is the millennial thing that we like to do.
Oh no! Now the millennials are going to come after me.
They're going to come for you. No, it's really It's actually really helpful. And right when you said it, I was like, that seriously couldn't be more true. So millennials, we're now in our 30s, but can you talk a little bit about what was like our, what do you call it? Like our Achilles heel when it came to mental well-being, probably when we were like in our 20s, more so as we like, fully formed our frontal lobe to blame our parents for everything.
Well, I mean, this is just me kind of speculating. I've really not done the research on this. It's just my own observation.
Yeah, but I feel like there's truth to it.
Yeah. I think that probably millennials, grew up in a time where there was more emphasis on mental health and more self-awareness, maybe too much, because remember, we swing,
the pendulum swings. Yep.
So they're looking at, why do I do the things that I do? They're more intent on how do I want to raise my kids? And I think as our society maybe has become more wealthy, like we have more time and opportunity to consider mental health, like when you're just out there surviving, like I think about my grandmother that grew up in the Great Depression or my parents that were born, post World War II, but lived through multiple wars. It was a different time where, if you're surviving, you don't have time to think about your mental health.
Sure.
You don't have time to think about how did my family of origin shape me.
Yeah.
So I think that, and I'm Gen X, and we didn't really have time to think about that either because we were raising ourselves basically, right? The feminist movement sent our mothers back to the workplace and we were latchkey kids.
Oh,
so we're just watching MTV and eating a snack. Come on, just trying to get that homework done, okay? But the millennials, maybe mom came back home. Maybe there's a little bit more, expendable income, and they have the privilege. I call it a privilege. Mental health is a privilege. It's a privilege to be able to even think about it, to be able to think about how our family of origin shaped us. And when the pendulum swings, it's really easy to go, my dad wasn't emotionally available, and, my mom was this, and they just really screwed me up. And so I think maybe that's part of it is they just have more awareness, which is a good thing, but you can go down some bad rabbit holes with that if you don't kind of keep those thoughts in a little bit of, I call it the middle ground, right? Like, we can say that our family of origin shaped us in this way, but we also have to take some accountability for our life.
Totally.
And not live in that as an identity, but say, okay, that shaped me. What do I want to do with it?
I do think too, all of that can change when you become a parent yourself.
Yeah.
And you realize how hard being a parent is and how every decision you make, you are trying the absolute best you can. I feel like, which my parents are seriously amazing. There's very little from my childhood I would say like, you screwed me up. Because also I'm broken, of course, but like, I don't feel like there's anything major at all.
Right.
But then you become a parent, and the grace I have for my parents just exponentially goes up. Because I think as a kid, you kind of hold your parents in such high regard because you think that they're professionals at being parents. You don't realize like this is their first time parenting too. And there's no rule book and there's no manual. And they're probably, after every decision they made, they went back in their room with each other, looking at each other like Wes and I do all the time. Like, are we doing good?
Yeah.
And
what are
you
we
just
doing?
have no idea. And so I do think just becoming a parent has given me so much grace for my parents of like, one, we're all screwing our kids up in some ways.
Probably, yeah.
And two, there's 1,000 ways to cut the cake of parenting, and only a couple are going to result in like your kid being a serial killer, probably.
Right.
And that's extreme. But and so there, but then we're all sinners and fall short.
And most of them are really doing the best they can with what they have. Right. So a lot of parents go into parenting and they haven't done their own work. yet of figuring out why they do what they do. And so they're growing up with us. That's the way I see it.
Yes.
Our parents are growing up with their children, and they're figuring themselves out as they go along. I mean, I'm way more self-aware than I was when I had Chapman at 25.
Yep.
You know, and so we can give a lot of grace there, and we have to look at, you know, the just the circumstances that they were raised in too.
Yeah.
Right. Generationally, we pass things down.
Yeah.
And so we can have grace and forgiveness and decide to do it different and make peace with the past, not live there, you know, those sorts of things.
Yeah. Which in some regards, it's moving away from this victimhood in a way.
Yes.
How do you see that playing out? Like our culture really pushing in on victimhood.
I hope we don't swing the other way, honestly.
Okay.
I hope the pendulum doesn't swing. I hope we really start to find a balance or a middle ground in some of these things. And I don't know if there's, you know, I don't know if the millennials are the biggest victim players. I don't know. But I think that it's not a mentally healthy thing to remain a victim. Like the reality might be you may be a victim of something, but you don't have to wear that as an identity. You don't have to live in that forever. You can decide what you want to do with that. And that's actually, whether you look at it from a biblical standpoint or you look at it from what we see science tells us, psychology tells us is better for people. It's not healthy. I mean, most of us in the field are trying to help people get out of a place of victimhood. Yeah.
Okay, so what are some of those steps? Because wearing that, what do you call it? Like wearing that identity of being a victim, this affects people of every age.
Yeah.
And it can be because things have been done to you
Yes.
that are really hard and really painful.
Right.
And it can be because of your own choices. And so what is that thing that you could tell people of taking steps out of that identity?
I think one, you have to face whatever happened to you head on and walk through the healing of it. You know, whether that is just between you and the Lord, if that involves forgiveness, if that involves trauma work with a professional, but you got to face that thing. You can't bury it down and pretend like it's not there. And because you can stay kind of in a psychological victimhood with that. It has to come up and out and into the light and be released. And then you have to make a decision, you know, what am I going to do with this part of my story? And what we know psychologically is that when people face their trauma, the things that have happened to them, and they are able to desensitize the impact of it and incorporate it into their story, they come out on the other side much more healthy and balanced than if they wear it as, you know, as a badge of honor in some way, or if they stuff it down and it didn't bother me and they play the martyr, right? So victimhood and martyr are two extremes that we don't want to live in.
Okay, that's really good.
We want to live in that middle ground where, like, this thing happened to me, but it doesn't define my life. I'm going to forgive, which is I'm not saying that lightly. Like, I recognize that's a hard and it's a process. It's a hard thing to do. But I'm going to see what I'm going to live in my real identity, not the identity that this thing that happened to me tried to put on me, because that's what the enemy wants. The enemy wants you to live in an identity related to what happened to you, to live in shame, to live in there's something wrong with me, which is what shame means. And God wants you to live in freedom. He wants you to live in the truth of who he's called you to be as a child of God, and not in what this thing that happened to you says about you or has done to you. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in that. In my own life, I've experienced that. I went through a really hard season. I was living in New York right after college. It was 2 years of my life, like the darkest, hardest season of my life. Wow. Extreme loneliness was the first time I ever experienced anything along the lines of depression. I remember my mom calling me and saying, like, just go for a walk outside. And I was like, no, like, I literally can't. Like, I cannot get out of this bed. It was really hard. I had struggled with my relationship with food. I'd go on these big roller coasters of shaming myself for eating. And like, it was just a really, really hard season. And when I left New York and moved back to Jacksonville, I said, I will never go back to this city. Like, I will never go back to New York. When Wes and I started dating, he had never been to New York. I said, I'm so sorry. You won't be going. I hope you never wanted to visit that city because I'm never going to go again. And I started to notice over the past 3 years that anytime I was teaching or speaking, New York was coming up, the season of my life. I kept talking about it, about how it was such a forming season in my faith and all this. So last fall marked 10 years from me moving out of New York. And I was teaching at a women's encounter up in Georgia. And I was sharing a story about it, and I got off stage and I thought, wow, I shared that story and I felt no pain, no bitterness, no resentment. Now, I feel bad because it's like New York didn't do this to me, but I should harbor it against New York. But I actually was so excited that I said, wow, God's brought me on such a healing journey that I actually look upon it with fondness of who it created me to be and how God's using it now. Yep. And I came home and I told Wes, I actually want to take you to New York because now I feel like you have to see this place that was such a foundational part of my story. Yeah. And so I just think about that, and everybody's story is different, but a source of pain for so long continued. I feel like I really tried, and it's not linear, but I continued to try and just surrender it to the Lord. Yes. And ask him to use it. That's the process. Because it's a painful part of my life, but I didn't want it to go to waste. And it continues to be one of the things I relate most to people on. And I've just seen God use it, and I feel so free from it. I think, and you said that, like, the enemy wants to keep you in bondage to the things that have happened to you, but God actually wants to use it. Yes. You know, Charles Spurgeon has a quote, and I'm going to mess it up, but it's something like, every leader goes through the desert. Yes. Every leader has to have the crushing. And I think it's easy to chalk crushing up to crushing when it's actually something that God will likely use in a really big way in the people in your life. Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I call that the flip. When you're going through a healing journey of, you know, a season or something that's happened to you, there's a place where your brain is wired for love and meaning and positivity. It really is. And that's how God made it to be. And there is a flip at some point where your brain goes, okay, but what did this mean in the bigger picture of my life? You know, my own meta narrative. Like, where does this fit? So when I say, like, incorporating it into your story, that's kind of, there's a point where you kind of flip and you start to go, okay, that thing happened to me, and what was the good that came out of it? What is God doing with it? How is this going to impact other people? So you incorporate it in your story in a different way. It's not just this thing that's pushed down and you're trying to avoid, but it becomes part of your story. And so what do you do when your feelings don't line up with that? You know, like, how do you take steps in that if your heart hasn't caught up? Yeah. So it does take feelings longer to catch up. And I would say you have to stay grounded in your mind in truth and allow your feelings to catch up and submit those feelings to God. Cry out to him, lament to him, like David does in the Psalms, because he's going to take those and mold them and supernaturally heal them and help them line up with the truth that you're putting your brain on. I mean, our mind can direct everything, right? And we can, the cool thing about it is we can choose what we put in our mind. We can choose what to think. And if we are thinking about truth, our behavior and our feelings will eventually catch up. If we submit all of that to God. Yeah, it's good news. It's good news. Okay, last question is, as you've studied this integration of science and biblical truth, why is it so important with how, like, the science of how our brain works? Why does it matter so much that we have something like that? We have the Bible that is absolute truth to guide us. Does that like make sense as a question?
Absolutely. I mean, it's the foundation. Like I think about it when I think of like positive affirmations. That's like a big thing lately, is a mantra or positive affirmations about yourself. The problem is, remember I said your brain knows the difference between what's real and what's not? So our brain is wired to know truth, and we have it in the palm of our hand. And so when we focus our mind on the truth of who we are and we say those things to ourselves, that's what impacts us. I've said before that I don't know how to help people with their identity, if they don't believe that the scripture's true. Like if I don't have the Bible as a resource, I'm not sure how to help people with identity. Like, where else do you get it from? What other source of truth is there than the scripture? Yeah. So to me, it's foundational. It's the most important thing. And it's the thing that our brain will really go, okay.
That's so cool.
I believe that.
So cool, because that hits on the thing we talked about at the beginning, heart, soul, mind, and strength. Like your soul and your mind are not separated entities, and your heart. Like these things are all wrapped together. So where your soul is what we're surrendering, and it's that exchange, like on the spiritual level, your mind is as involved. Like I love what you're saying. Your brain knows what's true. And so all these things are integrated, which is so cool.
Absolutely.
All right. So where can people get your book?
Online, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, any kind of online retailer. There's an Audible version as well.
Of you reading it?
Of me reading it.
Yay, fun.
Yeah. So
what was that like?
Weird. It felt a little like performing. For like 8 hours straight.
There's so many hours.
Yeah, you have to read ahead so you know what you're saying, but you have to use inflection and commas and pause at the right time. So it's a lot. I was exhausted.
So go get the audiobook so that it was worth her time.
Yes.
Well, we're so excited for you. And this book really matters. Your message really matters. And it's so fun to just watch you step into so many different spaces and share the truth of who God is through the lens of mental health and mental well-being. And I'm so excited to see what God does with it.
Yeah, me too. Thanks,
Thank
Allie.
you. Thanks for listening. We'd love for you to join us in The Neighborhood, our Patreon community. It's a space for the good, the hard, and the hilarious. A place where real life happens. It's $5 a month or any additional amount you choose. You'll get a podcast episode once a week from Caitlin and I, plus additional videos, early access to events and merch, and more fun things we'll do along the way. So come join us by going to patreon.com/neighborspodcast and sign up. We'll see you in the neighborhood. And if you enjoy Neighbors, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star review anywhere you listen to the podcast, or subscribe and give this video a thumbs up on YouTube. Sharing is the best way to help our conversations make it into more corners of life. To grab your favorite Neighbors merch or resources, you can head to our website, theneighborspodcast.com. Neighbors is produced by Logger Creative, audio by Taylor Minning, and music by Austin and Lindsay Adamak. See you next time.